This is the Fantasy Football Unlimited podcast with your host, Kevin Murray.
Welcome to the Fantasy Football Unlimited podcast. On this episode, we have an awesome guest. His rise in the fantasy football industry has been so much fun to witness over the years. It's none other than Luke Sawhook. Welcome to the show, Luke.
Thank you so much for having me. I really appreciate it. And just seeing that intro of, Jason Moore and Matthew Berry on the show, it's an honor to be here. I appreciate the opportunity. And like I was telling you a little bit pre-show, you are extremely well prepared. Maybe the most, I'll give you an award right now, actually, while we're getting started, for most prepared fantasy football podcast I've guested on, including my own, which is way more prepared than this. So congratulations.
Well, I appreciate the award. I mean, I love awards. I can't deny awards, but no, I know I appreciate it. Again, I loved your journey. I think we're going to dive deep into your story. Lots of things that interest me about your path towards where you're at right now. For listeners and viewers that are unfamiliar with your contributions in the space, what are you up to now? What are you currently up to?
So right now is actually a really interesting time for me. The answer is honestly nothing, which is weird for me because it's never been the case. I'm sure we'll get to it in a little bit, but right now I work for an ice cream company in the Midwest, Grader's Ice Cream, which is fantastic ice cream, by the way. I promise, even though I work there, I'm not being paid or sponsored to say that it is truly the best ice cream I've ever had in my life as a Cincinnati boy, based in Cincinnati, Ohio, is where Grader's is from. Definitely recommend trying it if you ever had the ability to do it. But anyways, in the space, I'm doing nothing really. I mean, I just create content for myself, which has been a lot of fun, and I'm making kind of an intentional effort to expand my content beyond just Twitter, where it's lived only pretty much for the last like 5 years. I'm finally looking to expand into Instagram and TikTok more and YouTube Shorts and all that kind of stuff. So I've been making a conscious effort to do that recently, but just making my own content. My profile is always kind of a random mismatch of my life and sports and culture and whatever else I want to talk about, but it's mostly fantasy football and NFL and a lot of WWE recently, which has been weird, and just my life in general. So that's what kind of I have going on right now. So if any of that interests you, you can check that out after the show, I guess.
Well, yeah, no, I think it's all interested. Obviously, it ties into your brand. We're going to get in a little bit about how you've kind of, went about establishing yourself. It's fascinating to me, and obviously, you certainly have a passion for sports. For you, so when did you become a big sports fan, and who are your favorite teams and players across the sports spectrum when growing up?
That's a great question. So for me, I mean, my dad's always been a huge sports fan. My mom doesn't really care that much, but my dad's a huge sports fan, always has been. Very competitive guy, loves his favorite teams, which I'll get into in a second because it's a separate topic in my opinion, which you'll understand in a moment. I didn't really care about sports that much until I was probably like in middle school, like fifth-ish grade. I think what really got me into it was, those like lunch table kind of conversations. Started to really spark my interest in video games. I grew up in an era. I'm 24, just turned 24 in February. For me, video games like NBA 2K and Madden really got me into knowing more of the players on rosters. And then from there, you obviously can understand more and learn more about the game and whatnot. So that's what really got me into it. My favorite teams, all inherited by my father, preliminary disclaimer: Steelers, Lakers, and Yankees. I know everyone's going to want to put me on a pike or something. I don't know. Here's the story I always tell. My dad's side of the family is from Pittsburgh. Easiest box to check, okay? Lakers, I don't know. Maybe my grandfather's a bandwagon. I have no idea. He's been a Lakers fan since like the 60s. So my dad inherited that fandom. I inherited that fandom. And I will say, too, people always make fun of me for being a Lakers fan with the bandwagon trio. They've been horrible until recently when I started caring about the team. I started caring in 2013, which is the year they added Dwight Howard and Steve Nash to Kobe Bryant, which was a total disaster. And then from there, they were horrible until they started to really accumulate that young core of like Brandon Ingram and Lonzo and all those guys. And then they traded them all for Anthony Davis and got LeBron. And finally, we're a good team now. Luka Doncic, by the way, very exciting. So that's my Lakers fandom. And then Yankees is the one that's kind of the most confusing, honestly, to explain. My dad's family apparently didn't really care about baseball growing up. And his best friend that he met when he was a little kid came from the Bronx and moved into his hometown of Fairfield, Ohio. So he adapted to the Yankees fandom. But I also have more of a professional excuse now because I worked for one of their minor league teams for about 2 years. So that I'm a Yankees fan as well. I'm a diehard for all three fandoms. I will not be hearing any criticism about it at this time. Thank you so much.
I love it. Now, so when it comes to fandom, what's the worst loss you ever experienced as a sports fan?
I feel like the Steelers recently have been really tough. Dang. I really, 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 really hated the World Series this past year for the Yankees. That was terrible. Freddie Freeman destroyed us, but that was kind of a blowout series. I think the answer I'm going to give, honestly, that made me like maybe the most mad was when the Steelers lost to the Browns in the wild card round a few years ago.
Okay.
I remember I was in my basement at my parents' house, and it was just me down there for some reason. I don't know where my dad was. And the first play of the game or the first series of the game, I forget what it was, but the Steelers snapped the ball over Ben's head, and I think it was a touchdown. Something horrible happened to start the game, and I literally like threw my I'm not like a rage guy. I like threw my chair across the room, and I was just like livid. And I like horrible loss. Horrible loss. There's many, obviously, like any sports fan, but that's one that sticks out.
No, I mean obviously that definitely counts for sure. How about your all-time favorite sports moment?
Favorite moment?
Well, yeah, I mean just
That's
as a
tough,
sports
dude.
fan, like what's the pinnacle of your sports fandom that you can think of?
Including NFL stuff I've done, like events I've gone to, probably last year when I went to the Super Bowl for Super Bowl Media Week for the first time. I didn't stay for the game, but we went to Super Bowl opening night last year in Vegas, and then we like walked out onto the field, and they had like this Vegas like reel going about the city, like on the jumbotron and stuff, and I was just like, whoa! I'm like, I'm here, man. This is crazy because it's all themed for the Super Bowl, and like that was awesome. That was really cool. And then as a fan, just like watching sports. See, I was too young to really appreciate the Steelers' last Super Bowl in 2009. I didn't really care. You know what I mean? I don't
Yeah.
remember it. And same with the Yankees. The Lakers won the championship in 2020. That was great. That was awesome. But the one I think that honestly is the most memorable was Derek Jeter's last game when he won on a walk-off. That was really memorable for me and my dad. We watched the game together, and that was fantastic.
I love it. Yeah, those kind of stories I love where it's connected to a moment with someone else, a family
Yeah.
member, something like that. I think that's always special. So when along the way did you discover fantasy sports?
Man, I don't really know. Like, I very casually played fantasy football, I feel like, with, like, my family, like, my immediate family of 4 when I was in, like, middle school, but not really. What really got me into it, honestly, was the Fantasy Footballers, podcast, like, actually, in high school. I just started listening to it because I was fantasy season was coming around, and I was just like I literally just typed in fantasy football on my podcast thing, and, they popped up as one of the top results, and just fell in love with their show because who doesn't love their show? It's fantastic. I still think it's the best fantasy podcast in the world. No offense, obviously. It's incredible. And I love how they blend everything with the sound bites and the humor with actual good advice and just fantastic. And that got me more into it. And that's what really got me into playing fantasy at a quote higher level and understanding the game at a higher level.
So when you started playing the game, what about the game was it that hooked you?
Man, I don't know. I feel like everything is magical about fantasy in general, but what really got me deep into fantasy was my first dynasty league I joined back in like 2020. I think it was my first dynasty league I joined because I didn't really get hardcore into it until like I was almost out of high school into college, which is 2019 when I graduated high school. So around there, I joined on Sleeper. Shout out to Sleeper, by the way, my favorite fantasy app. I joined a random dynasty league in like one of those like chat feeds, you know what I'm talking about, where you can go on and like
Yeah.
just join a league posting. I joined one and I met this group of guys that are fantastic. I still play with them in that league that I joined, or one similar to it. And it's just, I love dynasty fantasy football. I think it was just great to really get deep into like rookie drafts and just like talking to these people in this league chat that just like really, I just love the year round nature of it. And I think that's what really got me into it and like took
So
it to that next level.
yeah, so when it comes to playing the game, do you have a primary league or like one league that matters the most to you?
Yeah, I mean, I think the one that means the most to me now for sure is just my like many out there, my yearly redraft league I do with my buddies from high school. It's the best. It's the best. I think we're on year 4 or 5 now. I don't really know, but we're really starting to step it up. We want to make it like the league for our friend group forever. We bought a trophy last year for the first time. Started doing last place punishments. Like we're really getting rolling here, folks. So that's the one I think means the most to me. I spend the most. And I don't want to. I don't want to talk about it, but I somehow got last this year. I am disgusted about it. I had the 5th most points scored in the league, and I came in last place. I don't know how that's possible. I set an all-time league record for points scored against. I drafted Travis
The
Etienne. It
worst.
was a nightmare season. But we'll be back next year. I'm not.
Do you have a punishment coming?
I do actually, and it's funny because I picked it out myself with Twitter's recommendations. It's gonna be pretty horrible. Basically, I'm gonna have to ingest 8 ounces of stuff that my league mates decide to blend up and feed me.
Oh, boy.
I've laid a few ground rules. I get 1 veto. Okay.
Yeah.
These were voted on by the league, by the way. I'm not some kind of ruthless dictator. I am the commission of the league, so I have some power. I get 1 veto item that's I can say no to in the blender. Nothing extremely spicy. Nothing like inhumane levels of torture. But outside of that, anything's fair game. It's
I
gonna be
love it.
delightful.
Well, that's funny because you said you were 5th highest scorer
Yeah.
in our league. A few years ago, we set up the deal where the 6th playoff spot out of a 12-team league goes to the team with the most points outside of the top 5. Outside of the
Oh,
top
I
10.
actually really like that rule.
Yeah. So this year, our last place team was 2nd in points.
Oh my god.
Got the 6th seed, made the playoffs, and won the entire championship.
That's insane.
Won the
That's
league,
actually really
right?
cool.
Last place,
love
they were
that.
like 3-11 or whatever it was, and
That's
they actually
absurd.
won the league championship. So
I
it was
love that.
pretty wild. Pretty wild.
Yeah,
I'm
my
probably
team-
saying,
My
go
team in that
ahead.
league this year was also just like gross. Like I have no idea how I lost. Like my running backs were my weakness, but I ended the season with this roster: Jalen Hurts, Brees Hall, who had a down year. Who was my other running back? I forget. I think it was maybe Pacheco or something. Justin Jefferson, Tyreek Hill, Kittle. How did I come in last? I don't know.
That's
It was
crazy.
a horrible year.
That's
It was
fantasy. That points against is torture. That's the one where someone always gets punished
It's so
that way.
frustrating because
It
there's
is.
things you can do against that. Like you can add in the league median scoring thing.
Yeah.
But we've decided as a league that we want to keep kickers, we want to keep defense, we want to
Yeah.
keep everything classic because we want it to be like the classic fantasy football experience, for better and for worse. We are full PPR at least, which I'm happy about. I'm not playing standard leagues.
Nice. Now, who is your biggest rival in fantasy football? Like the one person in a league that you have to beat?
It's a good question. I would say it's my best friend, but he doesn't really talk a lot of smack, like he's pretty chill. Like we're kind of like have like an alliance almost. Probably my friend Adam. It's because he's a big trash talker, like he thinks that he's like, gonna run the league every time. He's like very overconfident in his players and values guys too highly. There's also another guy named Jack who is like the worst person to trade with because he thinks all of his players are like God. And you will never be able to get fair value for anything for him. So I always want to spite him and beat him. But outside of that, the league's still pretty young, man. Like I said, we're only a few years into it. I don't really have any deep rivalries yet, but they'll come.
Okay.
They'll come in time.
They'll definitely come. Do you have any favorite settings, formats in fantasy?
I really love Superflex. Big Superflex advocate, the 2 QBs. I think quarterback is such a valuable position in real life football. Yeah, I think there's no reason why these quarterbacks who are really not even bad in real life NFL should be like left on waiver wires in redraft leagues. That being said, my most important league, of course, we don't play in Superflex because why would we in my home league? You know how it goes.
Of course.
But especially for Dynasty, have to have Superflex. I refuse to play like in a 1 QB Dynasty league. I think those are terrible. But Superflex is great. I love sucking up all those quarterbacks and trying to play the game of which backups might be starters next year. It's fantastic.
So yeah. So in your case, what I recall is you probably 2020 or so when it comes to starting to get online and create content is accurate.
Yeah, actually extremely accurate.
So what was it that made you want to dive into the space?
Yeah, I actually have a pretty firm story on this, which is nice. I remember clearly. So when I was going into college, like I said, my senior year of high school is when I really started to get into it, like 2019, listening to fantasy footballers, yada yada. I went to Miami University of Ohio. Shout out, love and honor. Anyways, I went to Miami University of Ohio and I was doing some research on like clubs and stuff they had on campus, and they had a fantasy football club, and I was like, sick, love that. So I went to the big fair with all the clubs. They call it Mega Fair at Miami. I went there, signed up for the club, started attending weekly meetings. They had weekly meetings every Tuesday night to get together and talk about fantasy football and NFL. And they actually, sorry, slight sidetrack. They've had this idea. Well, not even an idea. They had a very unique fantasy football game mode that I've actually tweeted about wanting to maybe create one day a couple times before. Shout out to Adam Weiss who made this. He was the former club president. It was called Banter Fantasy Football. It was a fantasy football league concept that essentially was a unlimited sized league. So like over 100 club members could join all one league. And it was weekly head-to-head points for everybody in the league. And there was season-long standings for points. But what made it so interesting and so unique was it was your classic fantasy football format for starting lineup, quarterback, 2 running backs, 2 wide receivers, tight end, flex, bench. But every week at club, Tuesdays at 8 p.m., the commission would hit a button and randomize everyone's rosters in the entire league each week. Every week, there's no draft.
Okay.
Every single week, there'd be a randomizer, and every team would get a certain projected point total, like roughly around like a point or 2 average, okay? So it would all be fair. But the thing that made it so interesting in the name Banter is every roster had a hole somewhere. I didn't have a quarterback, or you didn't have your running back too. But on your bench, you had extra players at different positions you could trade me to fill my hole. So everyone in the club would go walk around the room and trade negotiate live on the spot and make trades with each other to fill out their rosters. It was so much fun. And the thing that made it super unique was you could have clone players. So if you really wanted to, because there's like over 100 teams in the league, right? And it's all one league. So you could have up to 3, Cooper Kupps or 3 James Connors, or, it's awesome. I loved it. Yeah. So anyways, super sidetracked. Sorry about that. So Fantasy Football Club in Miami. I got really into it. Loved the club. I was a freshman, and the exec board at the time was, I think, juniors, and they wanted to transition the club because they were the founders at the time. So I ran for an exec position. I was elected club president, which was awesome. So I was president of the club all 4 years in Miami. But over the summer of my freshman and sophomore year was COVID. So obviously I had nothing to do. I was at home and I was bored. And I was texting some of the exec member guys from the previous years, and there was an old Twitter account that hadn't been used for a while because it's called Fantasy Football at Miami. The Twitter still exists. I hopped on. They hadn't tweeted since 2018, and I just started posting very mediocre fantasy football content. I mean, that's how it started. I hopped on there. I was one of those like really peace and love if you're one of those people out there. I was one of those really obnoxious accounts that would like post a poll asking questions about like who would rather have on your team, and then like tag like 40 accounts to try to get interactive. That was me. That was me back like 5 years ago. I obviously stopped doing that, but I grew that account from, 200 followers to like 800 followers in like a month or so. Okay. Nothing crazy, but I was growing, and I made a connection with EK Baller from Twitter, Eric. If he's still at Dynasty Nerds, I'm not too familiar, but he was with dynastynerds.com at the time. Connected with him. I was going to school for social media marketing and digital content creation and stuff. And I was like, hey, was interested in seeing if you guys had any kind of internship opportunities with Dynasty Nerds. And he was like, I don't know, but I'll let you know. And then Garrett Price from Dynasty Nerds, shout out to Garrett. He DM'd me on Twitter on that account, and we started talking, and not to brag, but they offered me an unpaid internship. So like, let's go. That was my first opportunity in the industry. So I was thrilled. I was super excited to get my foot in the door somewhere. And I started working for Dynasty Nerds, and I announced that I accepted that position on my personal Twitter account that had like 300 followers at the time. I've had the Twitter since 2015, but I just used it for, retweeting cool sports stuff. And, just, I was a consumer. I wasn't a creator. I was just a user in the space. I just had like high school friends who followed me and stuff like that. But I announced that I got the internship with Dynasty Nerds, and some people from the industry started liking my post and, congratulating me and giving me a follow and stuff. And I was like, oh, this is like a thing. Okay, cool. And then from there, I started posting on my personal, and kind of how it started.
Yeah. So, I mean, obviously it's been quite a journey. Talk to me about where you have contributed over the last few years.
I don't even know if I could remember all of them, to be honest with you. I probably could if you gave me like an hour. But a lot of places is the short story, because I did a lot of it as as internships where they would give me a little bit of cash over the years because I was in college and I was just looking to build my resume.
Yeah,
a lot, man. So I started at Dynasty Nerds. I worked there for about 2.5 years doing their social media, which I'm very proud of. I worked at Prediction Strike, which is still in business, I believe. They're like a DFSE stock market sports thing. I was the one who started all their social media, which is awesome. I took their brand from 0 to a few thousand followers or whatever when I was done with them. I worked for them for about 10 months. Man, and then from there it just kind of rolls. I worked for Renegade Blitz, which is a Steelers thing. I worked for the fan-sided Steelers people. I worked for Belly Up Sports. I worked for Fan-Sided. I worked for Mojo for a little while, which was awesome. But then I think it's kind of gone belly up, unfortunately. It's like another sports stock market thing. I did stuff with Matthew Berry actually for a few months when I was still at school at Miami. I basically helped him on his text messaging service and replying to some of his users, which was a really awesome opportunity. Shout out to him. He was so kind and nice to me. Worked with him there. I did stuff for Miami University Athletics, doing their football and basketball social media. But also in the industry, I did the news desk for Fantasy Pros in the past for a little bit. So many things, but I'm super grateful for all. FTN Network. I did social media for them as an intern for about 9 months. I worked for Des Bryant for about a year doing freelance work. Sports Injury Central, doing social media for them as well. Draft Sharks. There's too many. There's too many, dude.
That's why I think it's awesome to hear that list because from the outside, I mean, your grind has just been so cool to see as college student just grinding away, trying to make opportunities happen, and obviously your experience with Dez and Personal Corner and High Points. There's just so much you've done in a short period of time, relatively. What are some of the best lessons you've learned from these stops in the sports media space?
Man, honestly, I won't get too into it. I learned a lot from my time from High Point, some good, some bad. I ended up leaving on my own terms after being full-time with them for a few months. It was interesting. A lot of highs, a lot of lows. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. So I think my biggest takeaway I got from that was measure twice, cut once. I think is the biggest takeaway I learned from that. I learned to not take from every opportunity, not just High Point. Just be some more selective with opportunities over the years. Because when I was younger in my career, I think I was just eager to take like anything. You know what I mean? Just any opportunity I could to get my foot in the door and try to climb the ladder or build credibility in the industry to get myself taken. Because a lot of my problem, honestly, when I was younger, like 20, 19, people didn't take me seriously, like at all. I ran into a lot, which actually is the story behind my banner on my profile on Twitter, which is a tweet from Matthew Berry saying something along the lines of, shout out to Luke, he worked his ass off or something like that, which was so kind of him. He was replying to somebody inferring that I wasn't able to be taken seriously because of my age, which was, again, so kind of him. I think the biggest lesson I've learned from this grind through the industry and taking opportunities is be more selective. I've at times overstretched myself too thin and put too many irons and fires in different places. And that's one of the reasons why right now I don't have any opportunities in the industry. I don't have any freelance work going on. I'm full-time at Graders and that's it. And I've really enjoyed the opportunity to just kind of focus on what I want to do with my own brand. I think that's been very interesting. But I've learned a lot about working in startups and what those environments are like and working with more stable companies and what those are like. And I think I've just learned a lot about adaptability and what kind of things work with different people and what different companies look for. And I know it's kind of broad, but that's honestly it. I gained a lot of experience with different social media tools and content creation strategies and stuff over the years. But I think the biggest thing I would say, like the advice I would give to my younger self, is just be patient and don't spread yourself too thin.
Nice. So what's been the most rewarding part of this journey for you?
Man, it's a good question. I really do think it's been in the opportunities to go to NFL media opportunities and events. Because I never would have thought I would have been able to ever do anything like that ever. I've gotten the privilege to cover 2 Super Bowls now for Media Week. I've got to go to the Combine and the NFL drafts. Like, unbelievably thankful for those opportunities. I don't know if this is the end. I actually applied for credentials for the Combine this year and got rejected. So if that's the end of the line, I'm very thankful for the opportunities to do so. But it's so rewarding for me to have the opportunity to interview and ask questions to these players. Seriously, like dream come true. I mean, I don't take it for granted at all. I know people would pay thousands of dollars for the opportunity to do that. I mean, I've got to interview Mahomes, ask him 3 different questions over the last 2 years, 3 to Travis Kelce. I mean, greatness. I can't be more thankful for those opportunities. It's just a once in a lifetime experience to be able to be a fan of the sport for so long, get to these awesome events and be a part of, their journey in the media and stuff. And I know, a lot of people don't take it seriously and ask like funny questions and stuff. I try to stick to football, and I take a lot of pride in that. It was a lot of fun and really, really amazing experiences.
Yeah, fun to watch your content from those events. Yeah,
Thank you.
I obviously truly believe that you are, appreciative of every one of those moments. You did great with your questions. Me thinking back at seeing some of your content over the last couple of years with those events. When it comes to challenges in the space, can you talk about some of the things you've encountered that have, you obviously mentioned age. Anything else that's kind of, I guess been a challenge for you?
Yeah, I'll touch back on age just briefly. Even though I am older now and people do take me, quote unquote, seriously in the industry, and I have more credit just for working over the last few years, I do feel like it's hard sometimes, though. Not calling people in the industry old by any means, but I would say the average, person working in the industry, if you had to give like a Joe Schmo, the guy who work, the person who works in the industry, they're a little older than me, and that's great. It's just I find it a little bit more difficult at times to establish those deep personal connections at times with those folks. So I
Sure.
think that at times has kind of limited my opportunities potential sometimes. But outside of that, just in the industry in general, doing social media management as the source of where I've gotten a lot of opportunities with companies. Some don't understand the value that it brings, and that's why I think one of the reasons I've bounced around at a lot of places is ultimately it's gotten to a point where we work together for a while. I feel like I'm delivering good content, exceeding expectations or at least meeting expectations. And due to budget or different aspects of the business, they have to go other ways and focus their attention on internally like building data sets or tools or whatever, which is totally valid. I'm not trying to say that these people are being unwise with their business, but it's been hard for me at times to stick places and really grow. And another challenge I've run into is I believe that I have a multifaceted skill set. Like I think I'm capable of being a guy who can run your social media and be the face on TikTok and short form video content for people, along with writing articles or making rankings or your more traditional content creator or analyst type things. And it's been hard for me to find opportunities with companies that allow me to do multiple of those things instead of just putting me into one role, which is fine. But it's been something I wish to have found more frequently in the industry.
Sure, sure. Now, how difficult has it been to balance, these pursuits for career opportunities, but also, do your own fantasy football or fantasy sports content creation? Obviously, you've done some really cool things in the space and done a lot of work with different brands inside and outside of sports. Obviously, the minor league baseball team, pretty
Yeah.
awesome. But how's it been to kind of, try to pursue establish yourself, professionally, but then also, work on your own brand and content?
I'm very thankful because I feel like I got a lot of opportunity when I was in college. I worked really hard at growing my personal brand while I was in school, and I had a lot of free time to pick up these side opportunities that didn't make me firmly commit to just doing one thing. So I could do anything I wanted, and I had the free time to execute on it. And when I worked with the Hudson Valley Renegades, the minor league baseball team I worked for full time, they were totally okay with me, like tweeting while I was at work, which sounds crazy because a lot of corporate jobs will just fire you if you're doing that, right? They were totally cool with me doing that, and I'm very thankful for that. So it's interesting now because I do work in more of a corporate setting, so like I can't be on my phone all the time during the day. Um, so that's been an interesting balance, but I really think I got lucky with working and doing opportunities with school and part-time opportunities where I had a lot of free time to be able to work on my personal brand along with balancing professional opportunities. Now it's more of a challenge to find the free time to do it. But I still really, really enjoy it. And honestly, the being full-time out of the industry and posting pictures of ice cream for a living has given me a lot more time to focus creative energy into my personal brand rather than when I was working for Dez's company full time for a few months before I decided to leave the company. Was every single day I was on, including weekends, and only focusing on sports content. So I didn't really have the passion or the drive to focus on creating my personal content on top of that.
Yeah.
I still enjoyed doing both. I loved my job. It was fantastic work, but it's different. I feel like I have more time to like focus and create things I want to rather than have to.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's been a really cool journey. Again, I'm sure you've learned a lot with all these different experiences. you've gained some wisdom. Let's get a little more wisdom from you when it comes to advice for people
Okay.
that are aspiring to become content creators or looking to do more in the fantasy space. What kind of advice do you have for people like that?
It's a great question. I honestly really love talking to people about this kind of stuff because, like I mentioned, I am a social media manager full time. That is my career. So I'm very passionate when it comes to content creation. I really feel like that's like what I was put on earth to do is like I broadly say make things for people to enjoy. Um, so my biggest piece of advice, honestly, is just to show up every day and do it. You can't make a full length YouTube video every day, or you can't live stream every day unless you have a lot of free time on your hands. But when it comes to like Twitter specifically, or getting into that industry, just make stuff. Just make stuff. Like people, I think, are really gun shy when it comes to putting their best foot forward. Not saying that quality doesn't matter. Quality obviously is important, but when you're starting, just start. Mr. Beast, I'm sure you've heard his name at this point. He's everywhere. Um, he's very famously said, when you're making a YouTube channel, people really overthink it. People aren't going to watch your first 10 videos, no matter what you do. So just focus on making those 10 videos and just make them. Learn your lessons. Try to get as good as you can in those 10 videos. And then from there, people will start to see your stuff more often as you start to grow an audience. Just do it. Just make things. Like I said, I started off making very mediocre fantasy football content that probably borderline annoyed people for a nameless, faceless account for a fantasy football club at Miami University of Ohio with like 400 followers. You can start anywhere doing anything. It's just a matter of finding your niche and deciding on what you want to do. Like I think the thing that I do that makes me quote unquote stand out. I'm not trying to say like I'm some egotistical maniac. I'm not an influencer by any means. I have a decent audience, but nothing crazy, right? So I just like to tweet my personal life. Like I do that. I add a lot of personality and tone to my content rather than just tweeting analytics and stats all day. I can do that if I want, but I don't want to. I like to share my life with people. I like to share all my experience with people. And I think that's what makes myself stand out from the crowd and gets people to follow me and resonate with my content. I think just the biggest piece of advice I could give is consistency. Just post things and your followers will go up. You will meet people and you will interact with people. Just do that. And ultimately you'll start to learn lessons and get better at it. It's the 10,000 an hour rule. You just got to do things until eventually you get better at it. So I think that's a lot of it. Be genuinely yourself. I highly recommend making a profile with your name and having your face in your profile picture. If you want to be a person in the industry, if you want to be a brand, have a high quality logo and have your name clear in a bio describing what your business or what you want to do is. But outside of that, don't be like football guy 26 and with a picture of like Amon St. Brown as your profile picture. If you want to actually make connections in the industry, be yourself, make your profile picture your face and try to actually get to know people and shoot people DMs and comment on other people's work and do all that kind of good stuff.
Great. Now, and again, you have a background in social media. When it comes to just like specific advice or tips for content creators that want to grow their brand and grow their audience, is it just essentially what you've been discussing just now, or are there any like specific tips that you take into a company or a brand that you do in order to grow that brand?
I think it depends on what you're trying to accomplish. For me, like when I go into brands and stuff, my goal is automatically always just to try to drive as much engagement as possible and raise awareness and grow and follower count, impressions, and engagement, which I think is the goal of a lot of other content creators. And I think things that are really effective are proper. It's hard to explain. This sounds stupid and maybe borderline egotistical. I don't mean it that way at all. I've been doing it for so long, it kind of becomes second nature for like optimizing your social. I was going to say, it's like, try to optimize your content. What does that mean? Be selective with how you write your text. Line breaks are really important for people to like clearly see what you're saying. Don't just do a giant wall of text. Tasteful emoji usage is helpful to try to catch people's attention. If you're making video content, make sure there's text on the screen and make sure there are cuts in the video. If you're talking like a minute or less. Other optimization strategies, I would say just make sure you're engaging with your community. And I think asking people questions is very useful. My first format I found that I think has kind of infected fantasy Twitter. I don't think I was me that did it. Nothing's ever original. Everything's already been done under the sun. But the thing that really worked for me at first was true or false. I did it with Dynasty Nerds back when I first got started, like 2021, was just, a picture of, let's say, Brees Hall. True or false, line break. Brees Hall will be a top 15 running back in fantasy football next season, period. Tweet that. You get comments from people. You like the comments. You interact with the comments. You kind of grow from there. Just anything you can do to engage your audience to start, rather than just putting out your newsletter or your podcast or your takes and opinions just into the ether. Even when I do that now, I get like one like. You know what I mean? Like you have to try to get some sort of engagement with people without coming off as spammy or engagement farmy. So I think that's my best advice is just try to interact with your audience and try to post stuff that encourages people to stay and interact with your post.
That's great advice for sure. No, I think that's definitely something that people can take away that's actionable for sure. Now, when it comes to social media and where things are going, for people that want to be more proactive rather than just kind of reactive to what's worked in the past, where do you think things are going when it comes to sites and content that's going to be catchy over the next few years?
I actually have a lot of opinions on this. How do I say? I don't want to ruffle any feathers with the industry folks. If you're hearing this out there, industry folks, I love you. I'm not trying to offend anybody, at all. Like at all. I've done all these things. I think the era of writing articles for the common person. What I mean by the common person, like me going to a website and just writing articles only as the primary thing I do for my job, unless I'm like a full-time beat reporter. I think that era is dying. I think podcasts that don't have an audience are going to kind of fade away unless you already build an audience from social media or you have an audience from somewhere else already. I think that kind of thing is going to kind of fade, like more of the traditional, like, hey, we have a website with articles and we make our money off ad revenue. But outside of the larger companies, right? Like you're wearing Football Guys hat. Football Guys will be fantastic. Still, ESPN will be fantastic. Fox Sports will be fantastic. But more of the smaller level companies, the way things are heading into and where I'm trying to move myself, actually, which I talked about a little bit earlier, is I'm making more of an effort, and I think brands should be making more of an effort to focus on short form video content. It's not going anywhere, folks. I know TikTok is, Gen Z brain rot to a degree. It is. My brain is put in the microwave every day and turned on for 2 minutes. That's what I do for my job. Okay. I get it. But short form video content is not going anywhere. YouTube Shorts still exists. Instagram Reels still exist. Facebook Reels exist. They're everywhere. Twitter even has a video section now. LinkedIn even has a short form video section now. Like that is where we're heading with content. And it's very, very powerful because of the algorithm. You can get so many new eyeballs on a post like that. You can make a TikTok account right now and get a post that has 100 million views on your first video. It's the way the algorithm works. It's video by video. So I think brands should be investing more into those resources because it's the way to grow brands easier. And then once you have a large following, you can monetize a lot easier. So that's where I think we're heading as the younger generation continues to, happen. And the older generation, for lack of a better term, continues to die off. I think that's the direction the industry is going to continue to head into, is more digital content, more social content, more shareable content is the way things are heading. And I think people build a lot of brand, from that. Look at all these big influencers, Mr. Beast, Kai Cenat, Brittany Borowski, or if you're familiar with her at all, she's a very popular comedian now who has a massive podcast because she's the kombucha girl. Do you know what I'm talking about? The kombucha girl. She tries it, make a weird face. Posted one TikTok, completely changed her life. That's where I think brands are going. You're going to have people who, like myself, I don't have a good TikTok audience. I have like 3,000 followers. But let's say tomorrow I wake up and I have 100,000 followers. Then I'll start a podcast because I have an audience already. Or then I'll start a website because I have an audience already. I think that's where we're heading towards.
That makes sense. Because now circling back to, you talked about, some of your favorite experiences in the space and on your journey. You mentioned, events, NFL events in credentials. People are curious, obviously, like how did you go about that? Like how did those opportunities present? What's your best advice for people that are going to those events in the future?
Yeah, it's great. You've been fantastic with the questions. I really appreciate it. You're fantastic. The NFL media stuff is kind of interesting. I think they've changed it and made it more difficult, unfortunately, than when I applied. I don't know if I would be accepted today. I'm just giving that disclaimer right now. The way it works is if you go to nflcommunications.com, you go onto their website. From there, there's like a portal. You fill out an application to be able to apply to media credentials, if that makes sense. So if you get approved for that, which you have to, that's obviously step one. You get access to a hub that has a bunch of media resources and stuff like that. But there's an event credentials tab. If you go to that, if there is an event coming up, it'll populate right there. You click on it, you select like what organization you're with, what your intentions are to cover, what you need for your media credential, like access to a media workroom, access for like photography for this thing or that thing, and you give a brief summary of like what your intentions are to go. You apply. You usually wait an uncomfortable amount of time to hear back. Like, I'm not joking. Like, you find out if you have credentials to the NFL Combine like a week before the Combine. It's nuts. It's nuts. So tight turnarounds. But that's how that works. You go to NFLcommunications.com. From there, anyone can apply. I highly recommend it if you're out there in the industry and you're listening to this, or you've never been and you want to try to go. Try it. Please do. It's an incredible experience. But again, like I said, I don't even know if I'm going to get to do it anymore, but who knows? Yeah. But if you're affiliated with a decently reputable organization in the industry, you definitely should be able to go. Like football guys, absolutely should be able to go. Player Profiler has a lot of people who go all the time, all that kind of stuff. I think it's harder for me right now because I'm more independent. But if I was affiliated with an organization, it should be kind of feasible. And if I had any advice for folks going to them, I would say just do as much as you can, which sounds obvious, but there's a lot of events going on. When you get there, there's obviously the big ones, right? Like the player media availabilities and whatnot. But my favorite events at the Super Bowl are not those. It was the media food and beverage preview, which is incredible. They take you up in a suite at the stadium for the Super Bowl, and they have all these chefs prepare so much food in an open bar, and you get to go around, take video and photo of all the food and video opportunities. And you get to try and eat and drink all the food you want for free. It's incredible. And both years I've gone, I've been very lucky to have some really good traction on my TikTok page from those videos I made. Like when I went in 2023 to the Super Bowl in Vegas, 2024 Super Bowl in Vegas, I had a TikTok get like 6 million views from that event. And this year I had a few that got over 100,000 from that event. So great access there. And then the media party in Super Bowl week, that Tuesday night this year, they threw an incredible party at Mardi Gras World in New Orleans, where there's free food and free drinks, and everyone's there from the industry, and you get to kind of hang out and network your butt off. Just incredible opportunities if you go beyond the player press conferences to really get yourself out there and network and have a good time.
Yeah, well, your food content from there is always great. I
try to coin myself as the people's insider when I'm not people's insider, people's media member while I'm there, and because I don't have sources. And I go into the media workroom. They usually have, the NFL graciously provides catering to the media members. Sometimes it's great, sometimes it's not. At the NFL draft in Kansas City, they gave us Kansas City barbecue and nachos and churros, and I was like, oh my god, this is incredible. And then the Super Bowl this year, it's like, okay, here's a Danish, and it's like, okay, still fantastic. Anyways, but I always try to go in the media room and do a little video down the food line and be like, this is what the NFL is feeding us today. So
when you mentioned food, I mean, it definitely makes me think more about your personal brand, and again, incorporating your life, into your content. Yeah, I mean, what was that approach? I mean, some people don't do that. Some people do when it comes to, just transparency. Why is it that you chose to kind of go that route when it comes to, your personal brand, just kind of being open and again, we're going to probably get into some nacho takes and
that's
whatnot.
Where I thought this was going.
Yeah, yes. For sure.
Like I said earlier, I think it's just what I like to, it makes me stand out. I've decided that's what makes me stand out is I just share my life with people. I think it helps me bond with my audience easier and gives them something to like about me besides just like NFL opinions. And some people probably don't like I share everything that I do. I've had many critiques over the years for quality over quantity, and I think it's a valid take to have. But I always say, I try to give quality opinions when I give them, but a lot of the time I just like to share my life and have fun and post memes and whatever, right? But for me, with like the food stuff, it's just all of it in general. My personal brand, just putting it all out there. I think it's because my generation grew up with YouTube. I don't know if you're a YouTube watcher. I watch so much YouTube. I watch more YouTube than television. I just love it. I've been inspired by several creators, especially gamer YouTuber Markiplier, which sounds really corny, but it's the truth. He's a very inspiring kind of content creator for me in terms of motivation and making things and the joy of making content and stuff. So I've always kind of wanted to be like a YouTuber in air quotes, like an online internet personality. You know what I mean? And I'm not afraid to put myself out there. I'm a very extroverted person. Like I asked my mom and dad for a microphone, a Blue Yeti microphone, and a capture card to record Call of Duty gameplay for YouTube videos when I was in 7th grade for Christmas. Horrible YouTube videos. They're on my dad's hard drive somewhere. I do not want to release them ever. Like I literally just uploaded unedited raw Call of Duty footage with me talking over my gameplay a lot. It was horrible. But anyways, it's just who I am to a degree. You know, I said like I think I'm on this earth to a degree to make things for people to enjoy. So I just love sharing everything with people. I really enjoy it. Like I love that. I think about this. I swear I was thinking about this today or yesterday, tweeting out something along the lines of like, my favorite thing about having this audience on Twitter is I can just ask any question and people will respond to me. Like it's fantastic. It's awesome. Like after the Oscars the other night when I think it's Anora. My apologies. I haven't seen the film. Anora won Best Film. I was like, all right, who's seen this movie? Is it good? You know, like let me know. And they got like 8 replies. You know, I'm like, hey, this is fantastic. I just enjoy the community of it. I love sharing my life with people and being there for people when they need me. And I don't know. It's just I enjoy being connected with the network of people around the world. And it's just a part of who I am, I guess. I just like meeting people and putting myself out there.
Well, yeah, I mean, you've cultivated a really cool community, and obviously, it's great for engagement, and it's fun to see you do these things and get in, have these conversations and share these funny, like quirky things. I mean, let's talk about those nachos. Like, what's the best microwave nacho recipe you got?
Well, it's one recipe, Kevin, and it is my recipe. So you take a plate, you take preferably a paper plate because we're not fancy here. Take a paper plate, you get some Totino's, either scoops or just original tortilla chips. I don't really care. I low-key think they come out better with the original ones, but I think there's a lot of scoopers out there. So, and then you put those on a plate, 1 layer or 2 layers, depending on how much you're feeling it. Like, just like cover it up. You give a hearty sprinkling of your choice of shredded cheese from the grocery store. Nothing fancy, okay? We're not grating cheese. We're not doing that. We're not putting Kraft singles on it either. We're getting shredded cheese like cheddar or like a Mexican like style blend from the grocery store. The plastic bag. Everyone knows the kind. Heavy-handed sprinkling on top of these nachos. You put them in the microwave. You set the timer for a minute. You check the nachos at around 45 to 50 seconds for ideal cheese melt. You want to make sure there's a good cheese melt on those bad boys. You want it gooey. You do not want it to the point where it's overcooked and gets a little like crispy cheese. You don't want that. Okay. You don't. Take them out. And then I personally like to lather it up with Frank's Red Hot. It's my favorite hot sauce, but your hot sauce of choice. And then that is the nacho recipe. It is tortilla chips, cheese, and hot sauce. And it has been successfully rage baiting people online for the last 5 years.
I love it. What food take or item in your fridge or whatnot has caused the most like drama on your timeline?
Oh, it's definitely the nachos, like 100%. Here's the thing: like people make fun of me for my food take, especially like Bo went big time over on Twitter with his hot sauce brand and everything. Good hot sauce, by the way. Shout out to you. But he always makes fun of my food takes and stuff I'm enjoying. But in general, I do feel like I have good takes on food. Maybe it's just because I like to debate and stuff. I think a lot of the fantasy football space is like, especially when you're like, earning your licks or whatever, you gotta be able to have a good debate with people and present your points in an articulate manner and, stand up why you believe in such and such player and, X, Y, and Z. I feel the same way about my food takes. I think I have good ones for the most part. So I don't know. I feel like I never see anything too egregious outside of the whole nacho thing.
Oh, great. I think it's funny, like when you show your fridge and like it just creates so many different opinions and thoughts. You know what I mean? Like
you are right. That has caused some controversy over the years where I have uploaded like a picture of like my shopping cart and been like this is why I love having an audience, right? You know what I mean? Like I love being like, hey, I'm 24 years old. I'm at the grocery store right now. This is what my cart looks like. I live by myself, and I post a picture of the cart, and I'm just like, everyone's just always like, where's the proteins at? Like, you need more vegetables. I'm like, I don't think there's anything green in that cart. I'm like, yeah, I know. I don't know. I love doing stuff like that. It's a lot of fun for me.
Well, again, you've created a cool community for sure. Talking about community, obviously the fantasy football community is pretty darn special. How much of the relationships you've built in the fantasy space meant to you over the years?
A ton. I want to give a shout out specifically to 2 of my best friends in the industry, and it's going to be Akash at YZR_fantasy on Twitter, and then Hutchinson Brown, which, username's long. I think it's HutchinsonB_FF. Those are my guys, man. I love those guys. They're a little younger in the industry. I've done several podcasts with them over the years and just had a lot of time to talk and play video games and get to know each other. And we just, I'm not that young anymore. I'm 24. I mean, it's still young, but I'm not like, 18 like Hutch is out here grinding away. Or he's actually 19 now, I think. But he's a young dude. We kind of always just kind of had each other's backs when we were a little bit younger in the space, always just making sure we advocate for each other and, link up. And I think those are really special relationships with those guys. And outside of those people, just everybody in the industry has always been very kind and welcoming and warm. And I think the industry in general at its best can be a fantastic place for people to be supportive of each other and want everyone to succeed together towards one common goal of, working in the industry and chasing our dreams and having fun playing fantasy football, a game we all love. But I want to also just shout out like my quote unquote like reply guys. You know what I mean? Like these people who aren't creators, who have kind of these nameless faceless accounts, but they show up for like everything I post and like everything I make and create, and they support me and they're really kind and always there for me if I need anything. And those people are like the backbone of the platform, so just shout out to those people and everyone who has been kind to me or taken time to get to know me or say hello over the years. It's really special.
Love it. Now, what's your experience been like with the expo, and are you heading back in 2025?
I'm actually really excited to go back this year. I haven't been able to go since 2022. I went in 2022 when I was still in college, but the last couple of years I was out in New York working for the Hudson Valley Renegades. So I wasn't able to come back during the baseball season for that, but really, really excited to go this year up to Canton. I live in Cincinnati, so not that far away. I can just make a 2.5-hour drive up to Canton, and can't wait to go this year. I will 100% be there. And, so much has changed over the last 3 years, so I can't wait to see what's up to everybody and meet new people and see some old faces and just have a good time.
Love it. Love it. Well, I
can drink this time.
There you go. There you go. Let's dive into some rapid fire questions. I'll throw out questions. Just let me know what first comes to mind. Let people get to know you a little bit more. What do you enjoy most about what you're doing in fantasy content creation right now?
I think just enjoying the creative process more. I recently started a series where I'm taking 10 cents and trying to bet it and double it and double it and double it until I hit $1,000. Like, I don't know if that series is going to end up going anywhere, to be honest with you. But just like coming up with ideas like that have been a lot of fun for me, and just taking more time to sit back and relax a little. And just kind of enjoy life. It's been your early 20s are a very transitional time of life, and I've moved a lot in the last couple of years, and just being able to kind of settle in and do what I want has been very rewarding recently.
I love it because, again, you've grinded so much. It's nice to have a little refresh right now and kind of refocus on what you want to do. And again, establishing that brand you're doing it's great. Keep it going for sure. Now, what are your favorite hobbies and activities outside of sports?
The typical dude stuff. Video games, love video games. Like I said, love to watch YouTube, but I enjoy playing sports with my friends. I can't really get the group of the fellas together that often anymore to go, play hoops or, backyard football anymore, but love doing that. I really just enjoy spending time with my close friends. I have a pretty close friend group. My best friend since 7th grade, Will, I gave a shout out earlier about the fantasy rivalry. Love hanging out with him, just going to do like bar trivia with my friends once a week and spending time with my girlfriend of almost 7 years. That's what I really like to do with my free time. I just kind of like to relax and enjoy. And I'm trying to, I'm in the middle of what I call Skinny Revolution 3.5 because I've failed 1, 2, and halfway failed 3. So we're in 3.5. And so I'm trying to get back in the gym right now and do all that. So that's really what I've been enjoying. I do really enjoy content creation in my free time, just for fun. And, like playing video games. Like my ideal night where I have nothing to do and I'm not hanging out with anybody is like I will have this laptop slightly to the left right here. My TV is right behind this laptop. I will sit here with my Xbox and play video games and have like a podcast or something right there. And I'll be eating some snacks and drinking some sodas or something and just like having myself a time, because I'm a little bachelor right now still in my bachelor apartment. I mean, I have a girlfriend, but she's not here yet. So bachelor pad still. I'm just enjoying life, man. So that's what I like to do in my free time. It's been a lot of fun.
That's fantastic. Now, what's your favorite non-sports video game of all time? What's your favorite sports video game of all time?
Man. Okay, sports video game of all time. My favorite. That's actually a really hard question. Dude, I don't know. I think I'm going to probably give the nod to Madden NFL 20. Okay. I think it was the best in the franchise of the games that I've played. And It's probably the game I played the most of that series, and Madden is probably my favorite video game of all time, even though it's kind of in a sorry state these days, unfortunately. I think College Football 25 was a lot better. But I think my favorite video game of all time, probably Call of Duty Advanced Warfare, which is a really hot take. I don't know if do you play Call of Duty at all? Have you played
I
Call of
have
Duty?
in the past, but I'm not
What
a
was your last
diehard.
Call of Duty game you played?
Oh my gosh, I can't even
Like,
recall what it was.
I didn't really start playing Call of Duty until what a lot of people would consider past its prime. I played my first Call of Duty was Call of Duty Ghosts, which came out right after Black Ops 2, which many consider to be one of the best games of all time.
Yeah.
So immediately started at the wrong time. But that's okay. But it really just comes down to the time of my life. I think I was in like 8th grade to my freshman year of high school, and Call of Duty Advanced Warfare was out, and me and my friends just played that game all the time, like religiously every day when we got home from school. And I just have so many memories playing that game with my friends. It was just definitely my favorite game for sure.
Nice. Now you are a wrestling fan. Who's your all-time favorite
Yes.
wrestler, and who's your favorite right now?
That's a great question because I actually got into it very recently. I didn't watch it literally at all growing up. I never ever watched it until my like senior year of college for some reason. It was WrestleMania was on that day, and I had been seeing, what kind of got me hooked into it at first was seeing like on TikTok, those videos of Stone Cold's entrance and heel turns and iconic WWE moments, and I just found it very entertaining and interesting. And how can you not? I don't know if you're a wrestling fan. How can you not at least be somewhat enamored with like a really cool entrance or like a really cool match or something like that? You know what I mean? Like,
Oh yeah.
it's feeling like the vibe, the aura of it all, and it kind of just
Yeah.
like interested me. And I was just like wasn't doing anything. Like I said, it was like my senior year of college, was kind of just chilling with my buddy in my apartment, and WrestleMania was on that night, and I was like, oh, WrestleMania is on. Sure, let's just turn it on. And it was just entertaining. Like I was like laughing at it because it's goofy, it's over the top. I was kind of just entertained, and I watched the show. And then after I watched WrestleMania, I was like, okay, well, I saw all these storylines happen now, so I have to watch Raw after Mania tomorrow night.
Yeah.
And then I watched that, and I was like, okay. And then the WWE video game was like on sale on the Xbox store, so I bought that, started playing, and I was like, this is actually a really fun game. And kind of like sports, how sports games got me sucked in. Like I started learning all the wrestlers and the storylines and the characters and like what their character means to the story going on and how the business works with baby faces and heels and booking and all that kind of stuff and what's real and what's not and everything like that. I just got super sucked in, and now I'm like a huge wrestling fan. Like I'm probably gonna watch WWE NXT tonight, which if you know, it's like not even their main roster show. I just love it. Like I've been to, God, I don't even know. I don't know what's gone on this year, but I've gone to like a million wrestling shows to start the year. I went to Friday Night SmackDown. I went to the Royal Rumble. I went to Monday Night Raw and NXT and an AEW Dynamite. All so far this year. It's fine. Like, what am I doing, man? I don't know. But wrestling is a lot of fun for me. It's just I enjoy it like any weekly recurring TV show with the drama and the lore, and it's fun. I don't know. I think right now is a really good time to watch WWE's product as well, and I just got really into it. Oh my God, I rambled for too long. You asked what my favorite wrestler
Who's
was.
your favorite?
Okay. Great question. All time?
Yeah.
It's probably the same answer as current because I've only been watching since 2023.
Yeah.
My favorite's probably Roman Reigns. I love Roman Reigns. Just what a badass. You know what I mean? Like the Samoans are incredible in wrestling. The Rock, Roman Reigns, Rikishi, all those guys from their generations are just incredible. And the storytelling they do is just unbelievable. I have a long list of favorites though. Like I really like Seth Rollins, Seth freaking Rollins. I love his work. He's an incredible performer. I think he's really underrated. I've been loving CM Punk since he came back to WWE. He's awesome. Obviously, I love John Cena. Obviously, I love The Rock. Some deeper cuts. I really like Dominic Mysterio, Rey Mysterio's son. He's a heel, and he's like the perfect, like snively little cunning. You just want to punch him in the mouth so bad, but you can't kind of heel. I think he's hilarious, and I love his work. So I can talk about wrestling for a while. I'm actually considering making some wrestling content soon because I just really like it.
Do it.
But yeah, man, I've just gotten into it. I don't know. It just bit me. It just bit me. I don't know how or why, but it just did.
Love it. Now, how about a favorite TV show all time?
The answer's changed over the years. Like, man, the best TV show. I don't know. I'm just gonna give my answer. I think it's The Office is my favorite all time. I think it's a perfect show. I was just talking to my girlfriend about this the other day because we had it on. It's the perfect show to pop on at any time because you can sit down and like really watch it, or you
Yeah.
have it on in the background, or you can have it on when you're falling asleep, or you can like you can go for like a happy cry, you can go for like a serious episode. It's the perfect show for me.
Love it. How
Some of my
about,
other I just want to give an honorable mention to
yeah,
Game
for
of
sure.
Thrones because I think Game of Thrones is like my favorite like good air
Yeah.
quotes TV show.
Yeah.
I watched that in 2023 with my roommate as well. Just binge watched the whole series in college and love that. I mean, the ending isn't great, but love that show because I just find myself like thinking about it a lot. Like I used to always say Breaking Bad was my favorite show of all time, which is fantastic, obviously, but like I don't think about it as often. But like Game of
Yeah.
Thrones, I like think about it a lot more. So I'm like, I think I kind of give that one the nod now.
Well, I'm still wondering where those dragons took Khaleesi because,
Dude,
there's
where
some.
did she go?
Where did she go? Right. So we'll see. We'll find out. Hopefully, they come out with a movie. That's the rumor, right?
I hope so. We need something to rectify the last season because it was
For sure.
so poor. Here's my take about the last season. It's like it's not even about like obviously like you can tell if you watch the whole show, especially like close to the last season. The last season, like everything changes with the pacing. It's like they shoved
Yeah.
like 3 seasons of stories into one, and the pacing
Yes.
feels different, and the show feels different. I didn't necessarily hate that. Like I was okay with that. It's just like it felt like every choice they made with the character arcs, I was like, don't like that, don't like that, hate that, really hate that,
Yeah.
don't love that, but I'm okay with it. Like everything was just kind of to end it. So
Sure.
anything to rectify that, I think would be fantastic.
And that also says like how good that show is because I agree. It's like it's one of the best shows ever, and despite the fast forward ending for sure. Now, how about a favorite movie? What do you got for a favorite movie and a favorite sports movie as well?
Man, my favorite movie honestly has also changed a lot too. I have 3 answers. I'm so long-winded at all my answers. My apologies.
It's okay.
When I was a kid, my answer was always the SpongeBob SquarePants movie, the first one. Okay,
Okay.
not any of the other ones. The first one, great movie. I don't care what anybody says. I love SpongeBob to death. Again, my generation. Um, a couple of years ago, if you would have asked me, my favorite movie was Everything Everywhere All at Once. That just came out very recently. Fantastic movie. I love that movie. It makes you feel something. It's so creative. It's brilliant. Love it. My favorite movie now is La La Land. I
Okay.
love La La Land. Such a good movie. Like kind of a thing like Game of Thrones with me. Like I just find myself thinking about it a lot, and like the vibe of it is so what am I trying to think about? I'm trying to say a word I can't remember. Oh well. I just get sucked into like that universe and like the energy. It's intoxicating, is what I meant to say. I
Okay.
just really love like the overall vibe of the movie. And I think the music is great and the performances are great. And I just really like it. I don't know.
Love it. Love it. How about a sports movie?
Sports movie, probably hmm, probably either Moneyball or Draft Day.
Okay.
Draft Day sucks as a movie. We all know this, but
Yeah.
it's so good for a sports fan just to get that kind of like behind the scenes look at it. I don't know. I'll go with
Love
Moneyball.
it.
I think Moneyball is probably the best
Okay.
for me.
Perfect. How about favorite food, beverage, snack? What do you got?
Food, ice cream. Like unironically, I work for an ice cream place, but ice cream is my favorite. It is my kryptonite. Skinny Revolution 3.5 is hard to fight off when I work for an ice cream company that has free, delicious pastries and heavily discounted ice cream at my fingertips at all times. So dangerous. Well, I love ice cream. My favorite ice cream in the world is Grater's cookies and cream.
Ooh.
So good. Like it's such a generic flavor, but the thing about Grater's that makes it so fantastic is you've never had it. Where do you live?
I've not Seattle. Yeah.
Seattle. I don't know if we have it in the West Coast like that. Maybe I'll try to ship you some. But anyways,
Oh, okay.
um, it's incredible ice cream. They make it with a French pot process. This is not sponsored, I promise, guys. French pot process. They literally hand pack every pint. It's made 2.5 gallons at a time, still in small batches, and it's a big brand. So like, it's super impressive. They're not just mass scaling it. I know like the Greater family now working there, and they seriously quality is the number one priority. So cookies and cream, it's like the best version of cookies and cream. Like the way I
Oh,
describe Graders to some people sometimes is like some of our flavors, like mint chocolate chip and just normal chocolate chip and cookies and cream. It's like the best version of your childhood favorite flavors. Like we use real Oreo cookies in the cookies and cream. Like it's delicious. It's my favorite ice cream flavor of all time. And so it's my
that's my
favorite food.
favorite ice cream flavor of all time. So you're speaking my language.
My goodness. I need to get you some cookies and cream.
Let's do it. Let's do it. How about beverage?
Beverage. Oh man. Man. I'm a sucker. God, actually, hang on.
You should say milkshake.
No, not milkshake. I will say, I think it's a tie between two. I'm a big soda guy. Soda is my one vice. Like, I tell people about this all the time. Like, I'm on the zero sugar stuff now. I'm not drinking the. I call full sugar ones full bodied sodas now, which is kind of fun.
Okay.
I don't know. It's either Coke or Mountain Dew for me. I'm a big Mountain Dew boy. I love a good Mountain Dew. I'm gonna give the nod to Mountain Dew. Actually, I love it. It's so good.
Okay. How about a favorite artist or band or musician?
I've been listening to a lot of stuff recently. My favorite artist right now that's like still releasing stuff is probably Billie Eilish. I really love her music. Very popular mainstream artist, but I just really like her stuff. I really have been liking like alternative pop recently, and that's kind of her lane. And I think she's the best at it. Makes fantastic music. All of her albums are wonderful, and I think her most recent one was completely snubbed at the Grammys, losing to Beyonce for Album of the Year. Like, come on, she has 33 Grammys, folks. She does not need another one for an album that was not even in the top streaming for the year. How dare they? Anyway, sorry about that.
Awesome. Now, how about a favorite vacation you've been on, and how about a bucket list travel destination for you?
Bucket list for me is Japan. I really want to go to Japan. I actually haven't been to like the eastern side of the world at all yet. I really want to go to like Europe and stuff like that as well. Haven't done that. My parents actually own a travel agency. Quick plug. Exclusive Travel Partners. They are a free service, folks. They get paid based off of commission of booking sales through these companies. They will plan your vacation phenomenally. My mom has been doing travel for over a decade now. My parents own Exclusive Travel Partners for about 5 years. They have a fantastic roster of agents that will help you plan your vacation wherever you're going in the world for free, and they will give you great advice and make it much less of a hassle. Anyways, plug over. My favorite vacation I've been on is probably a 7-night Disney cruise to the Bahamas with my family when I was younger and still in high school, because those like teen clubs on the cruise are incredible because you just meet these random people and you just become like best friends for them for like a week, and you just like hang out and eat ice cream and like eat snacks together like at the beach for a week. It's the best. Like, I just love one specific trip in mind in particular. Just fantastic vacations. Cruises are my favorite way to travel personally.
I love it. All these are great answers, Luke. Now, at this time, like, what are you most grateful for?
It's a great question. I think right now I'm not old at all. I'm only 24, but I've started to think more about my health. And I'm very grateful to be healthy and, have a roof over my head and, have a great job and a great girlfriend and family and parents and friends. I've been very, very, very fortunate and lucky in my life. Very privileged. And I totally acknowledge that. I just think I'm very grateful for where I am. Everything that's gone over the last few years, there's been a lot of change, like I mentioned, but like, I think if I traveled back in time and like told myself like 5 years ago when I first started posting like very mediocre fantasy football content, everything that's happened, like, I think my past self would be very proud of current me. And I take a lot of like pride in that. I'm very thankful. Like, everything that's gone on. Just I think if I had to narrow it down, like my health, my loved ones, and where I'm at to be set up for my future, I'm just like very thankful for.
That's fantastic. Now, is there anything we haven't covered that you want to share before we close things out here?
I really don't think so, man. I really don't. This has been fantastic. Like, seriously, probably the best interview I've done. I really appreciate it, man. Thank you so much for having me on.
Yeah, absolute pleasure to have you here. Can you tell the listeners, viewers, where to find you?
Yeah, I mean, literally any social media platform that exists on Earth, I'm pretty much on, except for Pinterest and Visco. It's my job, like I said, so I have to be on everything. And for better or for worse, I can never unplug. My @ is @Luke, Luke, Sawhook, like the two metal objects, just like the emojis that are next to my username. Sawhook, @Luke Sawhook on pretty much every single social media platform. If you will listen to this interview all the way through, thank you so much. Let me know that you did on like a DM or something, and I promise you I'll get back to you and say thank you. So thank you so much. If you do find me out there, and if you just listened, I appreciate your time. Thank you.
There we go, ladies and gentlemen. Luke Sawhook, pleasure to have you on here. I can't wait to see what's next for you in 2025.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for listening to the Fantasy Football Unlimited podcast. Until next time, be sure to follow and subscribe to all of FFU's social media accounts for daily content.